Hey everyone, it's Tom here from Ludicrous feed and thank you so much for joining us. In today's video, I will be talking about the Australian government's electric cars exemption, as well as providing you with a real-world case study. So let's go through the ATO's description of the electric cars exemption. So from 1st of July 2022, employers do not pay FBT or Fringe Benefits Tax on eligible electric cars and associated car expenses. You do not pay FBT if you provide private use of an electric car that meets all the following conditions. The car is a zero or low emissions vehicle. The first time the car is both held and used is on or after 1st of July 2022. The car is used by a current employee or their associates, such as family members, and luxury car tax has never been payable on the importation or sale of the car, which means that the car must be lower than the LCT threshold. So benefits provided under a salary packaging arrangement are included in the exemption or salary sacrifice, and the government will complete a review into this exemption by mid-2027 to consider the electric car uptake. We will provide an update when this review begins. So what is a zero or low emissions vehicle? So it is a battery electric vehicle, hydrogen fuel cell electric vehicle, or plug-in hybrid electric vehicle. It is a car designed to carry a load of less than 1 ton and fewer than 9 passengers, including the driver. Motorcycles and scooters are not cars for FBT purposes and do not qualify for the exemption, even if they are electric. So plug-in hybrid electric vehicles 1 April 2025 onwards will not be considered a zero or low emissions vehicle under FBT law. However, you can continue to apply the exemption if both the following requirements are met. Use of the plug-in hybrid electric vehicle was exempt before 1st April 2025. You have a financially binding commitment to continue providing private use of the vehicle on or after 1 April 2025. For this purpose, any optional extension of the vehicle is not considered binding. Okay, so some more notes on held and used definitions. So the requirement is that the electric car must be used for the first time on or after 1st July 2022, even if it is held before this date. It is held when it is owned, leased, or otherwise made available by another entity. And regarding the LCT, to be eligible for the exemption, the value of the electric car must be below the LCT threshold at the time it is first sold in a retail sale and in any subsequent sale. Associated car expenses include registration, insurance, repairs or maintenance, and fuel, or including electricity to charge and run electric cars. And then there's definitions on how much you can deduct for charging costs, which we'll go into a bit later. Okay, so to illustrate an example, I've got a real-world case study provided to us from viewer Chris, and in this example, he has used the electric car exemption to purchase his 2022 Tesla Model 3 rear-wheel drive in Victoria, and I must clarify that this does not qualify as financial advice. This video is purely for entertainment and information purposes only. I do strongly recommend you seek your own financial advice before making a purchase. Okay, so let's go through Chris's real-world case study of the 2022 Tesla Model 3 rear-wheel drive, which he purchased in Victoria using this electric car exemption. So the cost of the vehicle at the time of this purchase was $58,090.91 excluding GST. With GST, $63,900, and he purchased the car with blue paint, which was $1,500 extra, and the white interior, which was $1,500 extra as well. In this column, it'll be inclusive of GST. In this column, it is exclusive of GST. Let's go through each cell. So the Victorian rebate at the time of his purchase was $3,000, so that's a deduction of $3,000. There is no GST applicable for the rebate. The dealer delivery and order fee was $1,568.18. Inclusive of GST is $1,725. Stamp duty was $2,763.60 applicable to the purchase. Same value in this column because there's no GST applicable to the stamp duty. Registration, which can be included as part of the running costs as we highlighted earlier, $801.40, inclusive of GST $881.54. Now the next section is GST not recoverable. Now what does this mean? So one of the huge benefits of using Novated Leasing to purchase an electric car or any car in general is that GST is not payable on the purchase price of the vehicle up to a certain limit. So in 2023-24, at the time of this video, it is $68,741. For Chris, when he bought the vehicle, the threshold was $64,741. So the amount of GST over that threshold is $124.97, which is not recoverable and an additional cost to the Novated Lease. So the driveway price with GST was $66,360.60. Now the residual value, there is a minimum residual value set out by the ATO for leased cars, and in the case of a 3-year lease at the time of Chris's purchase was 46.88%, which when we apply to Chris's spreadsheet, inclusive of the vehicle cost and all the on-road costs, and an extra $450 of documentation fee set up by the leasing company, the residual value is now $28,502.60, and inclusive of GST is $31,352.86, which must be payable at the end of his 3-year lease. So lease period is 36 months, and he has estimated 15,000 kilometers per annum, equating to 45,000 kilometers in those 36 months. So how does this break down into his monthly charges? So the leasing company will be charging him $1,177.36, which means the annual cost is $14,128.32. Over 3 years, it's $42,384.96. There is a management fee of $16 per month, which works out to be $192 per annum, and $576 over the 3 years. Now, in terms of maintenance and tyres, these are estimates provided by Chris, and he has worked out it'll be $34 per month for maintenance, $408 per annum, and $1,224 all up over 3 years. Same with tyres, estimated $52.12 per month, $625.44 per annum, $1,876.32. So if you're thinking these maintenance costs are too high, then he's also made a note here on the side that he thinks that these are likely too high. So anything that is not used at the end of the lease will be refunded back to him minus any tax payable on that amount. So what happens if you do need to make a claim on maintenance or tyres? So there's two ways around it. You can either pay up front and then you can submit a claim to your leasing company, or if there is a preferred supplier by the leasing company, you can get the tyre shop or service to charge the invoice back to the leasing company. Now, at the time that Chris agreed to the terms from his leasing company, the ATO was still in the process of confirming their draft guidance for EV charging costs. In summary, at the moment, there are two ways to treat charging deductions. One is to include a charging rate of 4.2 cents per kilometre driven, or if you charge publicly, to include the public charging costs. Not both, unfortunately. Even though this guidance is currently under draft by the ATO, some leasing companies are already reimbursing based on this draft advice. However, Chris's specific leasing company has not agreed yet to allow this to be included in his running costs. However, he expects that once the ATO has confirmed this guidance, then he will be able to claim the costs back from the entire lease later on. Same with insurance, he has estimated $150 per month with a total annual cost of $1,800 and over 3 years, $5,400. Registration costs can also be included in Victoria, $48.56, making it $582.72 per annum, or $1,748.16. The ATO has also confirmed that the road user charge in Victoria is also FBT exempt, currently 2.8 cents per kilometre in Victoria. Now, at the time that Chris agreed to these terms for his lease, the road user charges were not included in the initial lease documents, but he has confirmed that he can claim this under the registration budget later on. And that would be a case of paying to Vic Roads and then seeking reimbursement from the lease company. Okay, so if we add up the lease rental with all the running costs, it becomes $1,478.04 per month, equating to $17,736.48 per annum. And over the 3 years, it'll be $53,209.44 all up. Now, these are all pre-tax figures, and because Chris will be salary sacrificing this, once he pays his income tax, he actually, in effect, only pays $783.36 because he has not paid the highest marginal tax rate on this amount, which at the moment is 47% in Australia. Of course, if you have a lower income, then that figure will decrease. As you know, in Australia, there is a marginal tax rate system. Between $45,000 and $120,000, our income is taxed at 34.5%. Between $120,000 and $180,000, it is 39%, and $180,000 and over is 47%. Assuming that Chris is on the highest tax bracket, then 47% is applicable to this pre-tax amount, meaning that his true cost of his lease is only $783.36, equating to $9,400.33 annually. And over the lease period is $28,201. And he's put a note here that paying pre-tax is equivalent to receiving a discount equivalent to your tax bracket. Because you didn't pay tax on this amount, once you take into account the 47% discount or whatever tax you apply to it, depending on your marginal tax bracket, then that's the true cost of how much you paid for your lease. Okay, so now let's have a look at how much you actually save on your electric vehicle if you were to purchase it via novated leasing compared to buying it outright. Okay, so let's have a look at the total cost after tax for the car, which is the lease and management fee. Adding this rental and the provider management fee is $42,960.96 before tax. Once you take into account the discount you receive by not paying the tax at the marginal rate, is $22,769.31. Straight away, that's a $20,000 saving. The total cost after tax for the running costs, which is these cells here, which is maintenance, tires, insurance, and registration, that's a total cost of $10,248.48. Taking into account the tax savings, it's a true cost of $5,431.69. So in effect, you've saved $4,816.79. Okay, so the total lease costs over 3 years, which is basically adding these two up, all the same as that cell there, $53,209.44, and then after tax is $28,201. In effect, the saving is $25,008.44. So this is basically the amount you didn't pay in tax, and that is your saving there of that much, $25,000 odd. And then from there, you need to add the residual, which is basically the balloon, this figure here, residual value based on the 46.88% minimum set up by the ATO of the purchase price. So adding $31,352.86 to the after-tax amount, the car is $59,553.86. Now you might think that's a pretty good saving already compared to the purchase price of $63,000. But don't forget, we actually added the running cost as well, and this is just the vehicle cost. So the savings are actually greater, and we'll explore that here in this section here in the darker green. So if we add the total after-tax cost of the vehicle, excluding the running costs, it's $54,122.17. And you arrive at that figure after you add the total cost after tax and the residual cost. So that's $54,000 odd. So compare that with paying cash, which is this figure here, $66,360.60 Driveaway. The savings of the vehicle on the car purchase alone is $12,238.43, which is pretty good, right? But then if you look at the total running costs after 3 years and you add that, which is this saving here, $4,816.79, once you take into account the discount you receive by not paying tax on this amount, then your saving actually grows again to $17,055.22. So that final figure is actually the true saving of purchasing a 2022 Tesla Model 3 rear-wheel drive in Victoria from last year, 2022, if you add the running costs and if you take into account the discount by not paying the tax, if you use the novated leasing method and applying the electric car exemption from the federal government's legislation. So I want to thank Chris very much for providing these figures and allowing us to get an idea of what it's like to purchase a vehicle via novated lease in a real-world scenario here in Australia. So looking at the savings here, $17,000, what are the downsides of novated leasing? Now obviously one is job security. You need to be comfortable that your job is secure for this lease period, because if you, for some reason, lose your job or are retrenched or redundant during this period, then you need to find a way to continue this lease on a post-tax basis, unless your new employer picks up the lease. Now note that some lease providers allow for an insurance for involuntary job losses. Secondly, is even though the FBT isn't payable on leases that meet this criteria, the reportable fringe benefits amounts must still be reported on the individual's income tax or payment summary. Employees do not pay tax on this amount, however, it does impact their income test and threshold for some things like family assistance, child support assessments, and other government benefits and obligations. Now, even though the novated leasing on eligible EVs is significantly cheaper than those for ICE vehicles because there's no fringe benefit tax applicable, the higher prices of EVs means that the residual payment is higher as well. As you can see, 46.88% of this Model 3 is $31,352.86. Now, at the moment, with used car prices, there aren't many Tesla Model 3s lower than that value, so you should be pretty safe. However, who knows what may happen in 3 years' time, of course. And the second part of this is that if you don't want to pay the residual, then you can always release your car for a further period under the same arrangement. And then you can reduce the residual value from your original residual value. And finally, this legislation won't be in place forever. According to the ATO document, this clause expires for new leases on plug-in hybrid vehicles from April 2025, and the government will complete a review of the exemption by mid-2027 to consider electric vehicle uptake and whether to continue the exemption after this time. Alright everyone, hope you've enjoyed this video. Again, this is not financial advice. Please do your own research and seek professional independent advice before proceeding with any purchase. Thanks very much again to Chris for all your real world numbers. I'm sure our viewers will very much appreciate this. Thanks so much everyone. Until the next Ludicrous feed video. Happy charging.